My biggest eye-opener from your work was the pathological narcissistic space. What is it? How does the narcissist use it?
You're one of a few who asked about it. First of all, thank you for having me.
Thank you.
The pathological narcissistic space, as the name implies, is actually a physical space. Not a space in the narcissist's mind, but a physical space. This physical space is represented in the narcissist's mind as some kind of, diagram or whatever, but it's a physical space. So that's where the narcissist goes to obtain narcissistic supply. That's the watering hole. That's the haunt of the narcissist. So it could be a pub, it could be a church, it could be a workplace, it could be anything. A university, it could be anywhere where the narcissist knows that he is like or she is likely to secure a regular flow of narcissistic supply from adoring and fawning followers and fans and so on.
Mhm. And is this something that as narcissists seem to get caught and then they move on in life? Are they in a rebuilding cycle with these spaces, or how do they sort of keep them going?
Sooner or later, the narcissist erodes everyone around him.
Hmm.
I'm saying him, half of all narcissists are women,
Hmm.
but for discussion's sake and for because of literary conventions, I'm going to use him. So sooner or later, everyone gets tired of the narcissist. Narcissists are exhausting, they're depleting. You have to cater to their needs. You have to constantly be on your toes. You have to be alert. You have to provide them with narcissistic supply, in other words, attention. It doesn't have to be positive attention, could be negative attention, but it still takes a lot out of you. Narcissists are antagonistic, in other words, conflict oriented. They're dysympathetic in the sense that they never reciprocate, and so you feel that you're constantly giving, and you're not getting anything in return. It's a very one-sided, asymmetrical relationship. So sooner or later, everyone shuns the narcissist, walks away, dumps the narcissist, and so on. And by the law of numbers, the narcissist is forced to find another pathological narcissistic space.
Hmm. And in this space too, it seems, if they have the sort of cult-like entourage and their activities around them, that this is an opportunity for entrainment, which I've heard you speak about. What is entrainment? How does it work? I think people find it difficult to believe that a narcissist can really brainwash people.
It's even more terrifying than brainwashing and possibly even less credible than brainwashing
Mm.
in the eyes of people who are not into neuroscience. Entrainment is a phenomenon first described in several neuroscientific studies. So it's a scientific thing. It's not a conspiracy theory. It's real. And entrainment is the synchronization of brain waves among individuals once they're exposed to the same rhythmical sequence of sounds. When we have a rhythmical sequence of sounds, we call it music. And indeed, entrainment was first discovered among members of rock bands. So the brain waves of participants in rock bands, the drummer, the singer, all their brain waves get synchronized and their brains become indistinguishable from one another. So they develop a hive mind, they develop a single overriding brain. I mean, physically, literally, that's not a metaphor. So this was first discovered among people participating in rock bands and then in sports and so on and so forth. And then it occurred to me that the narcissist uses sequential rhythmic sounds in the form of verbal abuse. The narcissist's verbal abuse is highly ritualized and is very reminiscent of a prayer.
Mm.
It would stand to reason that a prayer would synchronize brainwaves. A prayer is a sequence of sounds which are oft repeated and so on, very much like music. Indeed, the origin of music has been religious. And so we have liturgical music and Gregorian chants and what have you, requiems and so on. So the narcissist does the same. Narcissism, in my opinion, is a form of religion. We can discuss it a bit later. But the narcissist does exactly the same. He repeats mantras, he repeats slogans, he repeats well-chosen words and phrases ad nauseum. And he does that vociferously and repeatedly and emphatically. And I think that this should create entrainment by any definition of the word. And I think that's what the narcissist does. I think, let it be clear, there are no studies that support this speculation hitherto. But it stands to reason, let's say. And so what the narcissist does, he synchronizes his brainwaves with his victim's brainwaves. And he creates essentially a single brain with two extensions, but it's a single brain. And all the dynamics within this single brain are identical. So it's much more than brainwashing. Brainwashing is also, the narcissist also brainwashes the victim. The narcissist uses something known as introjection, which is a psychological process where you internalize the beliefs and the values of another person. You internalize the traits and the behaviors of another person. You come to identify with another person to the point that you perceive the attributes of the other person as your own. And this is essentially brainwashing. If you've been brainwashed in China, then by the Chinese, then you would believe that the CCP is the greatest thing ever. So the narcissist does this as well. The narcissist installs an app. If we were to compare your mind to a smartphone, the narcissist installs an app in your mind. And this app is an introject. And this introject is the avatar of the narcissist. It's the narcissist representation in your mind. And it's highly active. It continues to interact with you. It collaborates with other introjects. And it sends out a message which is essentially critical, harsh, sadistic, demeaning, denigrating, and controlling. So the narcissist does both. There is brainwashing via the introject, this installed application, and there is also entrainment, where the narcissist essentially takes over your brain, synchronizes the brain waves, and your brains become one and the same.
With the entrainment, does that require that you are together, much like the band, the rock band must be together? If you get away, you leave the room. Does that fade away and come back in when you're in the room with the narcissist?
Yes, entrainment is intermittent.
Hmm.
When you're not exposed to these repetitive sounds, which must be rhythmical and predictable and so on, when you're not exposed to them, you're not entrained. So yes, it requires the narcissist's physical presence and his constant spewing out of verbal abuse, which is highly structured, highly repetitive, and ritualized.
I'm curious. I know there aren't studies. There are studies on entrainment, but as you said, there aren't necessarily studies on this specific kind with the narcissist in a pure verbal way. I wonder, what do you think about the possibility that if there were music involved, say the narcissist were a dance teacher and they could lead a group of people, they could be touching partners as they're rotating partners, they could be giving counts at a rhythm, and then also giving critique and praise throughout the room and kind of running the room in the pathological narcissistic space. Would this be more powerful?
We definitely have documented what is known as a cult personality or a group personality. We know that when individuals are embedded in groups, they lose a large part of their personal autonomy and agency and critical faculties, ability to think critically. And we know that they suspend many psychological processes. For example, decision-making is relegated to the group or to the leader of the group, and so on and so forth. So yes, it would be a lot easier to entrain a group, actually, than it would be to entrain an individual, owing to peer pressure and in-group dynamics. And that's why, of course, you have the phenomena of cults and the phenomena of political parties that resemble cults, and the phenomena of charismatic and demagogic leaders, and so on and so forth, because there is an intersectionality, excuse me for the expression, there is an intersection and a confluence of both individual processes of entrainment and brainwashing, if you wish, or whatever, and group dynamics, which are conducive to this. So it's as if the narcissist, when he's in a group, he is multiplied. He's amplified by the group. The group is like an amplifier. If we hark back to music, it's like an amplifier of the narcissist's voice, messages, beliefs, values, and above all, of the narcissistic fantasy, known in clinical terms as shared fantasy.
To help raise awareness about narcissistic abuse, please share this video. It helps a lot.